Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Malkin with me, Dawn. Let's continue scaling the mountain. Map 99% explored. More royal dandywill grew here. He collected some. Donald was not alone on the mountain path. Give me all your coin. I'm His Majesty's messenger. I have nothing you'd be interested in. Go away or I'll kill you, the woman said, drawing her sword. Deedus' own page, eh? He doesn't put anything in your purse. The cutthroat, brandishing a blade of his own, drew closer to her. You're lost. You took the wrong path. Yes. Tell me the way back, and I'll only cut off your hand. She waved her sword defiantly. The young witch's flashback. The old legends say that in times of great uncertainty, brave kings have entered these woods and sought the witches. Some stories say the house is in the north, others in the south. Some say it's timbered, and others say it's made of stone. But all agree that the witches' prophecies have changed the fate of the kingdom many times. Interesting stories. They're more than stories to His Majesty. Will you tell us what you see? A stony crag, a woman kneeling on top of it. She had driven a sword into the chest of a man. She stood, using the sword as a support, but then slipped. Her left hand waved frantically in thin air, but her right still gripped the hilt of the sword. The vision ended before she either fell or recovered her balance. Donald's thoughts returned to the present, to the scene before him. Too slowly to force his body to act, though. The cutthroat lunged. The messenger dodged. They tussled at the cliff's edge. He grabbed her free arm, and as he did so, she wheeled on him and plunged her sword through his chest. He collapsed. The messenger was panting. Using the sword as support, careful not to look down, she began to stand, the heel of her right foot suspended over the edge of the cliff. Which, she said, seeing Donald for the first time. The distraction was fatal. She slipped, clutched the air, and fell screaming. As the young witch traveled the mountain, she came upon the messenger carrying Astaman's forgery. The messenger, apparently lost, was being threatened by a bandit. The messenger and thief fought near the edge of a cliff. The messenger killed her attacker, but as she stood up, she saw the witch, lost balance, and fell to her death, taking the letter to Zadai with her. I wonder if there's a way to prevent that. So we were too late to react because we had the flashback, right? So if we didn't give the ambassador and minister of peace our vision, maybe we could have saved her? I think we just head north. Oh, 100% of the map has been explored. Really cool design. The portrait we saw at the very beginning of the game, I thought it was a pig. Or a boar. I'm the beast above the House of Glory, shaking the pointed splendors of my crown against your nothingness, that which is against your abject never to become. The objects of your striving are so small, the prize is baffling and despicable. Why attempt to rise above the roar of all your dismal equals, clamoring to make a name the vast unlettered void will swallow with your life? Kneel, child of death, the might, that deference might spare you from despair. Donald did not kneel. Good, good. This witch will not be bent by words. Glory studies glory out of spite, and never bows to it. Climb up my flank, and let me hear what boon you've come to ask. The beast was very big, but climbing did not look too hard, as long as it didn't decide to suddenly shake its great head. Ridges in its armor and thick tufts of fur would offer handholds and footholds. Now it became a normal gourd, and Donald stowed it away. He started to climb. At first the climb was easy. Donald rose almost spider-like up the breastplate while Pharaoh, excited to see him joining him up high, flew circles around him. The higher he got, though, the harder it was. The beast's armor, slick with mountain mists, stopped offering sure holds, and once, he slipped and fell a foot or two. He was saved only by the luck of having found a crack in the armor with his flailing arms. Finally, Donald stood about halfway up the creature's side, right under what would have been the armpit of a human. He had two ways forward. He could attempt climbing the beast's pauldron, but this would likely require even more strength from his trembling limbs. Or he could attempt to jump for one of the tassels that decorated the top of the breastplate, though missing it would likely prove fatal. He chose to climb the pauldron. The lamellar plates of the pauldron were wet and treacherous. With a little ingenuity and a burst of strength, the young witch was able to hoist himself over them and onto surer territory. He climbed the rest of the way without trouble, and soon stood in the scruffy crook between its neck and shoulder. Now he could look down. It had come much higher than he thought. The mountain and forest encircling it stretched out in the miniature below. Even as he gazed at it, the landscape receded behind a veil of clouds. Thunder rumbled. The veil parted. He looked inside. For the third time, the witch saw Malkin and found himself an eavesdropper on his will. He recognized the place, the hill the woodcutter's son showed him. Around Malkin stood three huge pillars of mist. The mist dissolved to reveal the kami. He had summoned them from their ancient seats. They had come. A bold thing, witch, to stand before us with that book. To call on us with restless heart. Bring that witch's work before us. Why? All three boomed at once. Malkin held up the book. Teach me what Eldest Lady can't teach me. And from that book, what do you desire? I need to know the other ways to read it. And what would knowing make you, witch? He paused. I don't know, of course. I can't tell you that until I learn. Where would you rest your restless heart? What is your hunger? They were mocking him. He was afraid. He had invoked them. They indulged him by coming, but their indulgence wouldn't last. His answer needed to satisfy them. If it didn't, they would kill him or worse. What is your hunger? The kami repeated the question, angry. It was a conversation with Eldest Lady all over again. He couldn't think what to say. How was he supposed to frame his impossible desires to three immortal spirits? He couldn't bring himself to say something technically true that didn't encompass the whole truth. Nor did it seem likely they'd accept such an answer. Society and maturity had flattened his appetites and imagination. Wisdom had shown him the alloy of every fantasy. Every valley of remotest green grew common grass. He could see all that, so could they. How could he say what he couldn't see? The desire he intuited, but did not know. You dress your wants up in fine clothes, and pretend they have beauties they never will, she had said. Perhaps that was all it was. If that was so, he'd demand more of the world's bland gifts. He'd wring strange satisfactions out of unpromising material. He'd try conquest, scheming, the pursuit of beauty, the acquisition of things and of people that were marvelous, lovely, and varied. That's all it was. He'd make do. The kami shimmered. Through them he saw the terrible pleasures at his disposal. It was as if he were looking at his childhood self from the place where the eye of childhood had seen fairyland and a valley. Too much. Too much. Too much. There'd be no pleasure, only pain. Malkin fell. Donald split off from him, all himself once again. Malkin turned to him. Disembodied though he was, Malkin seemed to see him, to recognize him. It looked like he was going to say something. Curse, revelation, or warning. He never had the chance. His limbs cleaved to his body, and his body extended and twisted itself as bones broke and muscles tore. The top of his head burst open in a fountain of blood. The red streams turned to branches, a canopy of leaves and light. What in his mouth was now a long, thin crack in the tree that he'd become. Donald heard the witches chanting on the wind. Were they there? Or were these voices from an overlapping vision? Less or more or less. Desire's bird, but without a nest. Where it builds, it cannot rest. Less or more or less. More or less, less or more. Time's the straw it's looking for. The storm it sometimes flees, and the branch it cannot seize. Refugee from time's great war. More or less or more. The scene melted into the clouds, all except the humongous stag spirit. Eldest Lady's trickery and his own folly planted him where he still stands. To be fair, it seems as if you had something to do with it as well. The sport was ours, the purpose Eldest Lady's. We do concede we played a minor part. What does all of this have to do with Nen? Do you not see? The moths encircle you, attack the monster at your side, at every turn attempt your life. You are a witch. Do you not know the laws? May your fall be fast. Donald plummeted from the sky above the mountain. The forest rushed to welcome him. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he found himself suspended a few inches above the forest floor. The force that held him let him go. Then he stood, the spirit's question still ringing in his ears. The third spirit showed the young witch what happened to Malkin when he approached the kami with Eldest Lady's grimoire. They turned him into a tree, the same tree the woodcutter's son visited. The spirit blamed Eldest Lady's trickery and Malkin's hubris for this turn of events. The young witch needed to confront Eldest Lady and Middle One with this knowledge. Donald needed to confront Eldest Lady. Alright, we have one more thing I want to do. There's that door we couldn't open before. Up here. I'm gonna try and make it there before time runs out. Too late. Sorry, day was drawing to a close. Tonight was the last night before the Coven binding. Donald wondered how and if that ceremony would play out. He went back to the witch's house. Hopefully there's still time to get back to that door. So I'm wondering if maybe that door is tied to opening all the other doors, but we also found this key saying its mysteries remain. Sit, said Middle One, pulling out Donald's chair and gesturing to the seat. The savory pie steamed on the table. The house smelled of onion, garlic, and cooked meat. Eldest Lady took her own seat. She said no word to Donald. There was no need. Tomorrow would be momentous, one way or another. Everything depended on the young witch, and everyone gathered at the witch's table knew it. But Donald wasn't hungry. He needed to tell Eldest Lady what he learned. He did. So, they showed you. Sometimes I wish I was a tree. Birds in my hair, feet in the cool soil, no scolding. Quiet, Middle One. Well, now you know Malkin's secret. And what does it matter? You've pried into mysteries that have nothing to do with your task. Nen is still unavenged. What about Malkin? He was wrong too. The kami didn't show you everything. He was far from harmless. The kami aren't here. You are. Answer me. It was audacious for a witch to challenge the elders of a coven he wasn't yet bound to in this way. Middle One turned away, fearing the coming storm. The Eldest Lady only shrugged. Disbelieve me if you like. I speak the truth. I broke none of the laws by telling Malkin what I told him. I did him no harm. The spirits did the harm, and no laws bind them. There is bitterness in her voice. 'But But you knew something bad would happen to him. I guessed, but did not foresee what would happen when he spoke to the kami. I'll not deny that I meddled, that I went to the kami myself about him. But in all this I obeyed the laws. He was bad, Donald. His appetite and his power. He was not harmless. The binding of the Coven chafed. The laws chafed. He thought only of himself. What I could foresee, far more certainly than what happened to him, was his life as it would have otherwise been. A torment for others, a danger to us. How did you know that? We do not prophesy. Middle one squinted at Eldest Lady. The kami showed me, of course. You tell me not to trust them, but you trusted them yourself. Eldest Lady drew herself up, finally really angry. She seemed hideously tall in the small cabin. Thunder rumbled outside. Middle one cowered and crawled under the table. I've been patient with you, but you go too far. I am an elder witch. I have walked the roots of the world. I beheld the strangling twins and the bound ones with my own eyes. I can stand before the kami as their equal, and I can distinguish their truths from their falsehoods. I scorn your questions. The storm passed. Middle one crawled out from under the table. The kami have sown this mistrust between us on purpose. Your task was to find Nen's killer before the Coven binding. They have led you astray into this tedious maze. Now your time is almost up. You must be ready tomorrow. This talk of readiness reminds me of my hunger, said Middle One, staring at the pie. But go on, dear, said Middle One, handing him a knife. You can have the first slice. Donald took it and cut the pie. The moment the blade passed through the crust, blood rose through the crack and began seeping out the edges. Middle One shrieked, stood up, and backed away into the wall. Middle One, what is this? Demanded Eldest Lady. The blood had filled the dish and was now pouring out onto the table. The young witch and Eldest Lady stood too as it gushed out. I had nothing to do with it. The Eldest Lady and Middle One froze. They didn't even appear to be breathing. Voices boomed from all around. Tomorrow is the fateful day, young witch. Your course is all but set. The company you keep, they cannot force you to their will, or unspill what they spilled. You failed to learn it all, but you know enough. They'll bind you, blood or no. True cost, that comes after. The young witch's dinner with Eldest Lady and Middle One was interrupted by a gruesome vision. The other witches froze while the kami spoke, reproaching the young witch for not having done their bidding. They concluded by telling the young witch, they'll bind you, blood or no. The true cost, that comes after. The spell that had held Eldest and Middle One broke, and the blood stopped gushing from the meat pie, but still dripped onto the floor. Sorry, get me off it. They always call her Eldest Lady. The kami, surmised Eldest Lady. She hadn't heard anything. Middle One, clean up this mess. It's no use eating tonight. Donald, you have to go to bed hungry. I'll see to it that they do not toy with us tomorrow. She strode through the door into the night. Middle One looked ready to say something, but then thought better of it. Soon Donald was in bed. The sun rose not long after he had finally fallen asleep. The dreaded day had come. The witches were nowhere to be seen. Donald left the house. So what could I have missed? So we didn't speak to Zaris, but I don't think he would have had any clues as to what happened with Malkin. And Aji died. But it's possible he would have died regardless. Maybe that was his fate to die at that moment, whether by mercenaries or by the dog. So I'm going to try to go back to the royal encampment as well, and let them know that the messenger died. Still can't do anything with this. I guess we get back to the Forsaken Shack. Now that the dog has had his revenge and maybe find something. We have time to kill, so... Can't get back inside. Alright, fair enough. What do we do? Back to the tree, maybe. We still have this. I don't know what the secret sea is. Nothing I can do there. Secret sea. I assume that would be a... in a cave or something somewhere. Let's look at the map again. We've explored 100% of the map. I mean, it's possible that I walked past a cave somewhere. I didn't notice it before. Did those. Road to town, the inn. I guess we could try going back to the inn. This is where the abbey was. No, not sure. There's definitely a few things that I've missed in this playthrough. The clue for the axe. I guess we go east. Oh, it's a new dialogue. He was just beginning a new story when a fit of wheezing and coughing cut him off. He motioned for a middle-aged man sitting near him to fetch him something to drink. He brought it, and the fit passed. He was done telling stories for the day. Maybe Donald could hear a story some other time. So I'm guessing the... Now, Donald. No running off. He heard Eldest Lady's voice as clearly as if she had been standing next to him, but there was no one there. He found, though, that when he tried to follow the path to the road, it circled back to the woods. Powerful witchcraft was preventing him from leaving. I didn't mean to click through that. The eldest lady and middle one were opposite him, close to the tree that had been Malkin, standing in a circle of rocks they'd placed on the ground. The crimson grass was wilting, the blue flowers drooped. The leaves of the lone tree were falling. Eldest lady and middle one stooped in the grass, squinting in the sunlight. A cloth lay over a heap of something on the ground in the middle of the circle, next to the tree. Alright, so to anybody else, it would have seemed like an ordinary day. If a little cool for August. Fall, the season of decline, was waiting in the wings, ready to play her part. Sorry, it's hard to read right here. Her part in the yearly tragedy. The young witch was waiting too, as for what part he was supposed to play. The world went quiet, and he stumbled into a different scene. Alright, I'm going to call it here, and next time we'll talk to Middle One and Eldest Lady, and try to get out of this ritual, I think. We could just drop it. I'll mull it over off camera, and we might drop that first thing next time. But for now, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.